Welcome to This Explainer. Today we're diving straight into the fascinating and honestly kind of tricky world of cinema. We're going to tackle a really fundamental paradox. How do we actually analyze movies? You know, we all love sitting back and watching them, but taking a step back to really dissect what makes a film tick, well, that's a completely different ballgame.
I mean, think about it for a second. How exactly do you analyze a moving target? Film, literally by definition, moves continuously through time and space, right? Like, if you're analyzing a painting, you can stand in front of it for hours, just taking it all in. But if you hit pause on a movie to freeze a frame, well, it's not a motion picture anymore, is it? The very property that makes the medium so unique, its motion, dies the exact second you stop it.
You see, our source material highlights that film analysis actually requires us to respond sensitively to a simultaneous, continuous interplay of image, sound, and movement. It's an absolute sensory barrage. We aren't just looking at a static picture or reading text on a page. We are processing this massive symphony of moving parts, and they are all happening at the exact same time. It's wild, really. The very properties that make film arguably the most powerful and realistic art form out there are the exact same properties that make it so incredibly difficult to analyze. It simulates real life so perfectly, flowing continuously, that trying to catch the individual pieces as they fly by, well, it can feel a bit like trying to catch rain with a net.
So that brings us to Section 1, the challenge of motion, a continuous flow.
Which leads right into Section 2, immersion versus objectivity, the viewer's paradox.
Now this is where we hit what is arguably the most demanding hurdle for any audience member. You're constantly trying to manage your emotional state while also trying to be analytical. It's a total tug of war. On one hand, you have the idea of just getting lost in the story, which, let's be honest, is exactly what the filmmaker wants you to do. You're supposed to feel the suspense, cry with the characters, laugh at the jokes. But then, on the other hand, you have the task of analyzing the filmmaker's art. We somehow have to remain almost totally immersed in the emotional experience of the film while simultaneously maintaining this high degree of objectivity and critical detachment. It's literally like trying to enjoy a magic show while actively trying to spot all the hidden trapdoors. Not easy, right? But hey, don't worry, because this is absolutely a skill you can learn. It's about becoming what we call cineliterate. Basically, that means consciously cultivating the skill to maintain that objectivity and analytical detachment while you are fully immersed in a film. It means you can be completely moved to tears by a scene, but a small part of your brain is still noting, say, the brilliant use of shadows or the specific camera angle that made those tears happen in the first place. And yeah, as difficult as it might sound, becoming truly cineliterate is highly, highly rewarding.
Moving on to Section 3, the language of cinema, equipping yourself.
Because, of course, before you can critically analyze this moving target we've been talking about, you need the right tools and vocabulary. I mean, you wouldn't try to analyze a complex symphony without knowing what a crescendo or a woodwind instrument is, right? So the key takeaway here is this: you have to add basic production jargon to your vocabulary. Now, our source points out that ideally we'd all have some first-hand experience in cinematography or film editing, but let's be real for a second. Most of us definitely do not. So, in the absence of that hands-on experience, learning the basic technical terms of film production is just absolutely essential if you want to have an intelligent discussion about it. We really need to know our wide shots from our close-ups and our jump cuts from our crossfades if we want to actually evaluate how effective they are.
All right, Section 4, the double viewing technique, a practical solution.
So because film has way too many elements happening way too quickly on too many levels, trying to catch the plot, the emotion, the theme, and all the technical artistry all at once, it's just too much. It's overwhelming. So what's the solution? Well, it's the double viewing technique. If we genuinely want to develop proper analytical viewing habits, we really should try to see a film at least twice. Here's how it works. Step 1 is your first viewing. Just watch the film in the usual manner. Get caught up in the suspense, feel all the emotions, figure out the plot and the central theme, just let the movie wash over you. Then comes Step 2, your subsequent viewing. Because you already know exactly what happens, you're no longer distracted by the suspense. Now you can actually focus your full, undivided attention on the hows and whys of the filmmaker's art. And as with anything, practice makes perfect. With constant practice of this multiple viewing technique, you can gradually start to merge the functions of those two viewings into one. Eventually, you'll be able to feel the raw emotion of a scene and spot the technical wizardry making it happen simultaneously. And it's super interesting. Our source points out how technological innovations have made this infinitely easier. Like back in the day, before VCRs, Laserdiscs, or DVDs, you literally had to keep paying to go back to the movie theater. But now, modern home media is a total game changer. It allows us to easily pause, replay, and study films, which makes honing this skill a whole lot easier for all of us.
Which brings us to Section 5, a collaborative art form, the massive team effort.
Now, as we shift gears from the viewer's experience over to the actual reality of production, it's worth noting that many filmmakers don't even use the word film. They just call their work a picture. And a picture is rarely, if ever, made by just one person. Think about this number for a second. 1. Whenever we sit down to evaluate a novel or maybe a poem, we're typically judging the hard work of a single creative individual. Just one author pouring their soul onto a page. It's a very intimate one-to-one transmission of art from the creator directly to you, the consumer.
But contrast that solitary author with the film industry. Literally hundreds of commercial professionals are required to produce just a single average movie. Hundreds. It's kind of mind-blowing when you really think about it. If the medium of film can truly be called an art, it is undeniably a massive collaborative one. So, any close examination of a film really demands that we stay hyper-aware of this massive collective of talent working behind the scenes.
Just look at the sheer diversity of these artists. You've got producers, directors, production designers, costume and makeup artists, and of course, the actors. But our source makes a really fantastic point here regarding the last group on this list, the screenwriters. You know, historically, the screenwriter has often been viewed as kind of the least respected major player in Hollywood. Yet, in the beginning, there is still the word. The screenwriter remains the absolute primary originating force within cinematic art, because without their script, without that initial blueprint, literally none of those other hundreds of professionals have anything to build in the first place.
And that actually brings us to a really powerful revelation from our source text. It says, film analysis does not end when the film is over. In a sense, this is when it really begins. And that makes so much sense, doesn't it? You can't truly digest a dense, multi-layered movie while the images are still just flying at you. Complete analysis actually requires you to step away, to reflect, and to mentally replay parts of the film long after the screen goes dark. Those lingering questions bouncing around in your head, that's where the real critical work actually happens. So I want to leave you with this provocative thought. The next time you're sitting in the dark and those credits start to roll, will you just grab your coat and leave the theater? Or will you take a deep breath, engage that brand new cine-literate mindset, and let your analysis finally begin? Because the magic of the movies doesn't actually end with the fade to black. That is exactly when your mind gets to shine. Thanks so much for joining me for this explainer, and hey, happy analyzing.